Hello.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, Sam.
Morning,
Great to
Simon.
be
Can you hear me
here.
all right?
Yep, we're all good. We are
Cool.
good to go.
Very good. Is my audio okay? My
Yep,
mic's
yep, sounding
preamps
great.
playing nicely. All right.
Yep,
Very good.
no,
Very good.
looking good.
Cool. Well, morning, everyone, or evening, whatever time it is for you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
It's a pretty exciting day.
yeah, Europe, it's nearly midnight, so thank you to you guys over there who are saying hi. Thanks, Imran. Going to bed, but thanks for dropping in and leaving a comment.
Yeah, take care, mate. Hey, David. Hey, Glenn. Morning, Cake. Morning, guys. How you doing? We've got Rye, the guacamole explosion. Morning, evening. I'm just going to say morning, and if it's not morning for you,
Yeah,
you can deal with it with the greatest of respect.
yeah, exactly.
Because otherwise, my brain's going to get fried more than it already
Yep,
is, perhaps.
indeed, indeed. Well, here we are. We've finally launched BridgeOS 2.0. So exciting. If you check the learn.piratemini.com website, you'll see on the firmware updates page the full release notes. The firmware updater app will now let you update to the 2.0 stable release. Thank you, John, for getting out of bed just for us. That is.
I just realized we're both wearing the same hoodie, I think.
No, I think you're right. Have you got
Oh,
metal ends on
no.
your? You got metal.
No, I've
Just
got little plastic ones.
okay. Is
This sorry
is
to
this a
derail
Connor
you.
special?
No, it's not. No,
Well, they're
not a
not the
Connor me
same hoodie
myself.
then. They're almost the same, but it's just generic Pirate
Oh, we should have
Midi's
said there were
uniform colors.
uniforms.
Yeah.
No, this is just a nice toasty warm hoodie because it's freezing here. And by freezing, I mean it's probably like 12 degrees outside, which is freezing for Newcastle.
Yeah, well, here it's probably 8 outside, so yeah, we're not to one up
Condolences.
you, but a bit cold down here.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Yeah, well, morning everybody. Cold in Brisbane. I'll bet it is. I was actually just up in Brisbane. I got back on Sunday night. Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Tuvo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sorry. I think Australians are probably the most notorious for butchering foreign names, so apologies. But welcome. Glad to have you. BridgeOS 2.0 is out. I pushed it live about 20 minutes ago. Quick note, I should say, if you're updating from beta.61, obviously if you want to update for sure, it's practically identical. So if you kind of want to just dive in, there's no new features or anything like that introduced in 2.0. Beta 61 was the last beta version, which means it's sort of the final stable beta that we're happy to push live. It's sort of the release candidate. So if you're already on 61, which is the latest beta, then you're pretty much up to date. Before we get started, if you haven't already, full release notes have been published. Let me just bring those up here. As someone who's not a regular streamer, so to speak, forgive me, there might be a couple of things, a couple of discontinuities here. But what our goal for this stream is to just be available for you guys to ask any questions. Where's my streaming window gone now? Great. So smooth. Be available for you guys to ask any questions. Evening tour. Hey, William. Welcome, guys.
Sam, I've just put a QR code for the release notes up in the top left of the stream.
Amazing. Thank you, Simon. But yeah, so if you guys have, it's a bit of an AMA, so, and ask me anything, really anything to do with Pirate MIDI is going to fly, or to do with pizza as well. Bit of a pizza, I wouldn't say connoisseur, it's a bit pretentious, but lover and maker. But yeah, if you guys have any questions in general, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try and get to all of them, no worries. But specifically, we want to try and go through the release notes for V2.0, talk through them, showcase some of the new features, and just give you a really good overview of what you can expect. It's not going to be like a tutorial type video. So if you've got a specific question or something you're trying to achieve or something you can't quite kind of work out, we probably won't be able to go in depth into your specific issue and troubleshoot it live. As always, jump over to our GitHub support forum. It's great for that. But we just want this to be a real-time stream, so we can chat to you guys and show you what's new and answer any questions you might have.
Yeah. It's great fun. Sam, do you need a second to go and get that other login, or did you already swap around?
I'm here. I think it's fine.
Okay. All right. Cool. No problems.
All right. I'm going to just chuck this stream over onto one side and bring up the release notes. You know what is super annoying? You know what's actually the most annoying? When your windows aren't snapping and they're supposed to. The worst. But
the person who just scanned the QR code, I'm really sorry. I forgot to tail the URL to actually go to the correct page. Now it is fixed and it works.
Oh dear. All right. So, without further ado, I've got a bridge in front of me on my desk. One thing that I will say now, very important, stick around probably in a little bit, not too far away. We are going to drop the first clue into a bit of an Easter egg hunt that we have baked into BridgeOS, fresh for 2.0, that if you follow the trail all the way through over the next kind of couple of weeks, we'll post the clue sort of publicly, give some more teasers. There is actually going to be some discounts for the 2 new products we've got coming up, which will be announced very shortly, and also potentially a giveaway too. So if you want to sort of solve the puzzle, it's pretty cool. So we'll drop the first clue for that very soon. So stay tuned.
Exciting.
All right, I'm just going to go through the release notes here. Before I do, Imran, very specific question. Will Ox messages ever be able to send off messages? Thanks.
I think he means on release. Yeah.
On release. Gotcha.
Yeah, based on previous. Is that right, Imran? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he means on release because we've already got the toggle on and toggle off.
Yeah, you can send toggle on, toggle off, press and hold. Yeah, it's definitely possible. The reason why the message stacks are arranged as they are so far is designed such that you can use an aux switch the same way you would use an aux switch kind of plugged into any, maybe like non-digital device, switching presets on something where it's just like hard-coded functionality. You get that common toggle on, toggle off, while we're also trying to be make the user experience really uniform in how you use the switches on your bridge. So, you've got these LEDs, you've got kind of these, full color LEDs on both sides of the primary and the secondary, and wanting to make sure that that it doesn't become kind of too confusing when you've sort of got all of these different options, but without any kind of LED feedback or labels or things like that. But I could definitely see like a release message being really useful. There's probably no reason why we can't add that. So we'll look into that.
Yeah, I believe it's already on the requests on our list of things that we want to look at adding.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So
I won't tell you what they all are, but we have 15 enhancement or feature requests that are in the waiting for approval stage, and we have 9 that are in the accepted, but we haven't decided when to release them yet. Just so you guys know, there's a bunch more stuff that's still on the roadmap.
Yeah, for sure. And if you have any questions as we're going on, just pop in the chat. But without further ado, so new features. We've got new local MIDI control from external devices. So that's new targetable, CCs and things that you can send to your bridge to control various internal functions. So the main ones are, we've got reset all sequential switches. Pardon me, reset all scrolling switches. You can turn on, off, or toggle all primary switches. You can turn on, off, or toggle all secondary switches. You can increment, decrement, go to next, or reset a sequential switch, and likewise for a scrolling switch. And they're really cool because it gives you full external control over scrolling and sequential states. So if you have a scrolling switch set up on your on your bridge. And you want to use the message stack for that, and kind of use that the names and the colors and the powerful flexibility that you get there. But maybe you've got an external MIDI control like a DAW or a much simpler MIDI controller, and you want to be able to synchronize those events with some other kind of MIDI event. Well, it allows you to do that, and you can seamlessly scroll and remotely control all of that sequential scrolling and also those toggle events remotely, which is very cool. And it also gives you an easy way, say, to turn all toggle switches off, turn all toggle switches on, or toggle all of them, flip the states without having to go through and do those all manually. So that's really cool. One of the biggest ones, we've got HID keyboard messages. Very cool. So this allows any message stack to emulate a keyboard press on your, as you would on your keyboard. So all of these, by the way, you can add via the editor or on device. Simon's got a device shown there as well. Probably can't go and show the example with the editor and the device as well, but it's all works across both. So yeah, you can have on any message stack, you can add a keyboard press. So you go into a toggle switch, any message stack except for an expression, because that doesn't really make sense. You can add those keystroke messages, so you can add up to 3 keys at a time, including modifiers. So like A, B, Shift, or Control Shift F5, whatever it is. We've supported the full key list for 104 keyboards, I believe, which is pretty much every switch that most people ever have access to. So you can do all kinds of funky stuff, including like numpad, extended function keys, all that sort of stuff. So that's really, really cool. It allows you to control things that might not otherwise be able to be targeted via MIDI, and also set up custom macros on your PC. It's very nice. So yeah, as you can see, Simon's setting up there. You can add a key press type switch and then keys to your heart's content. One thing we noticed in testing is that Windows seems to honor the order that you send the keys. So if you know anything about USB, in the HID device report, it will specifically add the keys in the order added on device. Windows seems to honor this. macOS seems to do something a little more funky when you're sending keys pressed at exactly the same time. And so if you think about it, when you're pressing those keys on a computer keyboard, you're not actually pressing them at the exact same time. One is always being sent just before the other, and likewise. Whereas when you're adding them to this kind of message where it is actually seeing all those keys in exactly the same HID report, macOS seems to change the order of them around a little bit. So if you're using it for like typing macros, you might want to just be aware of that. Windows seems to do all right though. Okay, we've got optional toggle between 0 and 1 bank indexing for UI. So that means, if you'll notice on the extended UI mode that Simon had there, it's gone, disappeared. Who needed it anyway? I look very washed out and pale in this video, but that's fine. Yeah, Simon's made a little bank there to very explicitly show what we're talking about. So the new extended UI has a bunch of streamlined features, which is really nice. You get sort of a clearer section for looking at the bank name, and then there's also a dedicated space for showing the number of the bank that you're on. So you can see there he's on bank 5. If your bank's up or down, that changes 6.4 accordingly. So you don't have to add that into your bank anymore. And you'll notice now that banks, rather than, bank 87, whatever, it just shows new bank. That means that it's a little bit less confusing. You don't have to take up that space in your bank name. It gives you more flexibility and more options for that, which is cool. My chat's disappeared. Are you keeping an eye on that, Simon? Because there we go. Yes. Be worried if a dev ever looks like they've been outside. Well, you know what? Thank you. I had just spent a week and a bit up in Coolangatta, enjoying the sunshine. But yes, thank you. I'm not wrong there. So yeah. What you can also do, so you've got that bank index, you can change whether it is indexed from 0 or 1. Now, if you're not familiar with any kind of programming, all that means is what number your starting bank is. So originally, the first bank was 0 and the last bank was 99. Now that gives you 100 banks, but you might not be used to 0 being the first number that you count from. Usually, for a lot of people, it's 1. So you now have the option to display those names in the UI as either 0 to 99 or 1 to 100, however you see fit. All right. Automatic bank index can display in extended mode. We talked about that. It's not there in simple mode. The simple UI mode is, more stripped back, more streamlined. We had it in there originally, and most people who really liked the simple mode said, no, we just want, clean, crisp bank name. So that's for you. So as I'm showing you, yeah, you get just the, the bank name in big bold letters in simple UI mode. You can also invert the text color of the bank name if you want. So you can, instead of it being like a white on black background, you might find it easier to read if it's a like a white background with the text in black. Now that's excuse me, that's handy if you are maybe in kind of like a higher visibility or lower visibility area, and you want your bank name to really stand out compared to your switch names, or if you just prefer it that way. One thing to keep in mind is it will increase the current draw slightly. So if you're on, like a DC power supply and you're right on the limit of what we recommend, you may just want to check that your power supply is robust and good to go. So you can see in some example there, it makes it nice and white and black. Another thing to keep in mind, it's not really a big issue in the testing that we've done. Like I've been using some of our screens for 4 years now, and they've shown, a little bit of wear in terms of the vibrancy, but they've held up extremely well for OLED displays. In particular, you get generally better life out of the monochrome OLEDs. But one thing to keep in mind is if you have that sort of always on, and you leave your bridge on static in the same thing, the same scene for a couple of days, say, you might over, the course of months or years sort of notice a small amount of potential burn-in. We haven't done extensive testing on that large kind of white area set statically over a long period of time, but just something to be aware of. I wouldn't recommend just keeping on the same thing day after day after day. All right. You can do inversion. We've got state preservation. So it existed previously in pre 2.0 versions, but it was limited to toggle state preservation. What that means is if you toggle a switch, so Simon's showing you the menu setup here. It's obviously even more straightforward in the editor if you want to do that, but if you want the states of your switches to be as they were when you, go back to that bank, or you power it on or off, so, you're scrolling through, or you've got a sequential switch, you go back to that bank, it will stay on, the sequential step or the toggle state or the scrolling step value that you are on. That's really useful if you want to go back to, say, where you're up to, if you use your banks like, pages for a single song, something like that. So you can actually individually, for toggle states, sequential states, and scrolling states, turn those on or off depending on how you would like. So very handy. There's a new smart message, jump to last bank. That allows you to basically track the bank that you came from and return to it. So let's say I know a lot of people use a bank on their bridge like a home page, and they have sort of different songs that they can go to based off there. Well, instead of having to hard code in the bank that you want to go to, you can actually just go to the bank that you were already from. So that's really handy where you're scrolling through banks, things like that. And you just want to go back. It's like sort of the up level of banks. So it's a smart message to allow you to do just that. Very handy. You've got more granular LED brightness adjustment. So instead of low, medium, high, or off, you can actually change that LED brightness from 0 to 100%, however you like, which is pretty handy. You'll notice that because they are RGB mixing LEDs, they're an emissive technology. You won't get perfectly uniform color across the entire range. So you'll see that perhaps at lower brightness values, it's pretty uniform. I think we've done a pretty good job of that. But if you want like hex code very close to the exact hex color that you set them to, there may be slight discrepancies from full brightness to minimum brightness, but it should be all right. But you can set the LED brightness to exactly the level that you want now. So pretty nice. Hold to scroll bank navigation. This is pretty cool. It means that instead of having to press the bank triggers multiple times, you can just press and hold and it'll scroll through the banks just like it would with a menu item. That logo is over the chat for a second. Guacamole explosion. Preserve state works great now for scenarios with a looper control bank. Yes, 100%. Where you want to be able to, if you're stopped in a loop or you're played in a loop, you have some looper state. It makes sense that you don't want that to be reset when you go back to that bank. It doesn't make much sense. So very handy. All right. I will add as well, the hold to scroll applies to whatever custom bank trigger you might assign. So if you set, a single switch to be your bank trigger, it will work on that as well. We've also changed the banking action to be on the press. So you get like an instantaneous bank change rather than being on the release of the button. So it's instantaneous. Expression ladder messages. These are really cool. These are super cool. So you've got an expression pedal plugged into a flexi port in expression mode. And let's say you want to emulate the type of expression pedal or, wah that has a switch in the toe down position. Well, you can do that. Now you can assign custom triggers along the expression pedal sweep and have it trigger messages at different points. And these aren't hard coded. You don't have to say at toe down, do this, at halfway. You don't get one slot per value of the expression pedal. You can assign whatever slot you want. So you get 32 messages for each FlexiPort expression pedal, both bank and globally. So that's tons of messages, really powerful feature. So you can, use it to create like a granular staircase effect. You can have, you might want it to scroll through various presets with an expression pedal, however you like it. As I'm explaining this as well, make sure you check, what's going on to see an example of that. But really powerful feature. You can stack multiple messages on the same value. So if you go through and your pedal's at 63%, let's say, you might want to assign 4 messages to that value. It's not just limited to one. So very powerful. Coffee in the morning is good. I will note that is per FlexiPort. So you don't get that for like 1A and 1B, 2A and 2B. So if you're using expression doubler, those messages will only apply to the A channel. And it's per FlexiPort, not per like expression channel. So you can still use an expression doubler and get your dual expression pedals, but it will only apply to the A channel. That also can be used as well for like switch expansions. So you can have like a row of foot switches, and you can get we get 32 different messages. So you could have 32 external switches, each with their own message. It could be a MIDI message, could be a smart message, banking navigation, whatever you want. You can have that all plugged into a single FlexiPort if you want to use a resistive ladder switch. It's very cool. All right, switch group integration over device link. We did a bit of an overhaul to switch groups and device link in general. So switch group functionality is really smooth. You can also add sequential messages to switch groups now. So you can have 2 sequential messages in a switch group, and when you trigger one, it triggers the other. And that's nice because you could previously have a sequential linked mode switch, and that switch controls the other switch that's in sequential mode, and they share the color and the labels. But you're still sharing the same message stack. What this allows you to do is have 2 sequential switches. Maybe they might be out of sync there. They're on different steps. They have their own color. They have their own labels. But when you press one, it can trigger the other based on the switch group parameters that you set, whether it's on like what step it's on and the switch action. So really, really cool. And you can, of course, have all of your switch groups and all your switch group members. And that also works over device link. So if you have 2 units plugged in over device link, a single TRS cable from between 2 flexi ports, then you can have those sequential switches triggering each other over device link. You don't need to set up any complex MIDI, routing to have that happen. You just, plug it in, set those flexi ports to device link mode, set one to the main and one to the satellite, and away you go. Toggle switches also work beautifully, and device link in general is a lot more reliable and robust. It supports hot swapping. So when you plug it in, the master will always show a connected symbol. So it'll always be kind of like colored in, and the slave will show its connected state in real time. Very, very cool. So that's most of the new features. There's a lot of other just, really small little ones that were picked up along the way, a little change to the menu structure or, things like that. Maybe tweaks. There's some more in enhancements as well, which we'll go over, but they're a lot of the big new headline features, and there's lots more coming.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's great.
Anything to add to that, Simon?
Yeah, well, I just thought before we move on, how about we plug the book?
Yes,
Take it away. If you don't know, I spent the last 9 to 12 months, I can't remember exactly how long it's been, putting together a resource called Tones and Technology, which is an ebook in PDF format, with potential hard copies coming in the future, but not just yet. So don't hold your breath. Not sure
hard copies be expensive.
Yeah. But basically, well, thank you, Cake. Glad you're a big fan of the book. Essentially, I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to provide a free resource that's like a hard copy reference guide for like the basics of MIDI, what it is, how it works, all the different ways you can connect MIDI, the basics of like that crazy TRS type, all the different ways that's wired up. So there's a diagram in there of that, as well as some other specific things for how MIDI is usually implemented in effects pedals. And so that is all encapsulated in chapter 2 of the book, and that's free permanently forever. You can get that at tonesandtechnology.com, and that's a free download. You can tell all your friends. You can just use that and tell people about that forever.
I mean, please do.
It's free. Yeah, please do. However, there is a lot more in the full book. It's 135 pages. I did a ton of custom diagrams and charts and things that I wrote out to explain pretty much the basics of how we do MIDI in the effects pedal world. So it's called Tones and Technology, Mastering MIDI Controlled Effects Pedal Boards. So there's a lot of MIDI resources out there, a lot of blogs and stuff, but you'll find that it nearly always focuses on synths or the keys in general, virtual instruments, even DAWs, digital audio workstations like Logic Pro or Ableton. And so although I do mention how DAWs and apps and that can integrate into your pedal board as an extra MIDI tool to get more out of your pedals, the main topic is pedal boards and effects pedals. So if you'd like to dive into some more fancy MIDI techniques for your pedal board, go and check that out at tonesandtechnology.com. We might even give away a couple of copies if I see some people in the chat who don't already own it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you've done a really great job on that. I think it's a really, really great resource for people. And it's a good, it's a good kind of just browse read through, but especially with the PDF being able to, have it as searchable is really nice.
One other thing, if you like podcasts, look out for me on the Chairman of the Boards podcast soon. Haven't got a date locked in yet, but that should be happening soon.
Talking about all things MIDI. Very cool. Very cool. Should we tease the clue for the Easter egg hunt?
Oh, okay. All right.
Before, in case people need to get to bed?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So how this is going to work. There is a puzzle baked into your Bridge device. It's a multi-stage puzzle. It is not all available yet. So by that I mean you will need to unlock the first step using the first clue. Feel free to go and explore it yourself, or if you can't quite get it, can be kind of tricky perhaps. Then wait for more clues to drop. Keep it secret, keep it safe. If you figure it out, don't post and let everyone know about it. Let them work it out for themselves. The end.
You can tease that you figured it out. Just don't give any actual details.
Don't give it any details. The end reward will be early access to the new Aero and Click V2. It's coming. New Click V2.
What could that possibly mean?
Anyone who has the original Click or has bought the original Click, don't necessarily feel bad. It's not like just a kind of a new paint job. There's some new features that will have a very slightly higher price tag, but like we've got the current Click discounted to, is it 59? Simon,
let me check.
It's got a really good price on it. So if you're just looking for TRS control, then the current Click is it's great. Click V2, yes, I hadn't really planned on announcing or teasing it, but I suppose if you're listening, congratulations. You also get your TRS relay output and expression pedal emulation output. Very, very cool stuff. And a smaller footprint even. It's weird.
Yeah.
So anyway, the new Aero, if you haven't seen about it, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, new BridgeOS device. You will get early pre-sale access to that ability to get your hands on one, not just buy one, but get your hands on one before anyone else, and you will get a discount. It's going to be super cool. So the first clue, and it's deliberately vague or vague, as I believe our North American comrades say.
I've never heard an American pronounce it like that, but
I think Canadians maybe. It's like they do like it's vague. That's obviously with their delightful accent. Okay, I'm just finding it here. So the clue is, we'll post it in the chat as well.
Yep.
When it began on the 6110, name the serpent's fruit. One more time. So when it began on the 6110, name the serpent's fruit.
There we go. Clue. We got the ticker down the bottom.
We got the what?
We got the ticker on the bottom of the stream.
Oh, no. Very cool. Very cool. That'll only be there for a little bit. Make note. Take that and play with it. You need to do something on your Bridge device. Or with the editor or the device, either way, same. But go and explore your Bridge device based on that clue. And if you figure it out, have fun. That will allow you to unlock the next step of the puzzle, but then you will still need the next clue to proceed with the puzzle, or you can try all sorts of things to try and figure it out. But this first clue allows you to unlock the next step of the puzzle, and you then need to actually work out how to access that next step of the puzzle, which will also drop some clues to help you figure out. Go forth. Yeah. Like I said, you'll get early hands-on access to new products if you'd like to get those, and also a cool discount. Stay tuned. All right. Shall we crack onwards and upwards, Simon? Onto enhancements, BridgeOS. So these are not necessarily new features, but improvements to existing features or new little additions. So MIDI clock accuracy improved. This is a big one. Actually spent a fair bit of time really dialing in the MIDI clock functionality. There's still some more changes that I would like to make. One feature being able to have like a permanency of MIDI clocks, so you can have a MIDI clock created without having to assign a switch as tap tempo. So we're working on all that sort of stuff, but rock solid tempo stability and accuracy. That's really cool. General performance
and the MIDI clock pauses when you change banks as well, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. So when you change banks, you won't get kind of these weird artifacts as it's changing your tempo. General performance improvements and UI changes, fairly explanatory. MIDI through handling performance improvements, so better, MIDI through handling and routing.
Including you can now loop back USB MIDI through.
Yes, longer boot delay, so you can have up to 60 seconds of boot delay. I believe that was requested specifically for a quad cortex user, where it's got quite a long boot time. Yeah, you get up to a minute of boot delay if you want to. Very cool. LED feedback for momentary switch modes. So when you press a momentary switch, you get like a nice little LED feedback flash rather than not at all. So that's nice. Improved expression pedal performance. Actually spent a long time on this, both the expression pedal and the aux switch performance. The expression pedal performance is now extremely good, I would say. There were definitely some previous issues with like the onboard filtering algorithm, depending on the power supply that you're using and any kind of transient noise that might have been picked up. I'd say it's now extremely robust, has some really nice like automatic noise rejection and a very smooth feel to it. Also smoothed out the onboard UI display of the expression pedal as well. And aux switch improvements. It's designed to work with a wider range of aux switches. Plays a lot nicer with lower quality switches, noisier switches, things like that. And it should be, borderline bulletproof. Done a lot of testing and very, very robust and reliable. The onboard switches as well undergone a big.
The adjustable hold time works really nicely on the aux switches now as well.
Yeah, bundling that in. The onboard switches as well, kind of big, like performance improvement, just in terms of the trigger latency being, it's now even lower than it was. It's extremely fast, and any kind of accidental presses and noise rejection is handled really well. So it's good. Unified fonts, streamlined, extended, and simple UI. It speaks for itself. We've just kind of tweaked and streamlined some of the UI aspects, so it's a little more uniform. Expanded external MIDI functionality and through passing. Talked about that. More robust device link capabilities. We've talked about that. Changes. Simon already mentioned the MIDI clocks pausing. Probably the biggest change of note here is the switch out and pulse out messages. So when we first implemented this, it was designed so that if you were emulating an aux switch output, it would basically be as if you're pressing that aux switch with the switch when you're assigning a smart message. And by that, I mean, you've got a 3-switch aux switch, right? And you're pressing one at a time. And it was designed to emulate that, which was good. But I think then it also led to some confusion where people would want to more specifically just set the tip state or the ring state kind of in isolation of whatever else was going on. So when you would set tip on, that would be the the global objective state of that port. So tip on also then implicitly means that the ring is off. And when I say off, I mean not connected to the sleeve. And when you had ring on, implicitly the tip was also then off. Definitely confusing, and it sort of led to some, well, I didn't tell it to do that behavior. So now you get more fine control over it. So if you turn tip on, it's only controlling tip. If you turn ring on, only doing that. So you get on, off, and toggle messages for both the tip and the ring and both. So very, very streamlined, very straightforward there. And you sort of expanded set of smart messages that you get. Structural improvements and changes in preparation of Aero, and read the release notes for that one. Had Chuck, so we can use song lists or assign it to a different switch sequence. Can we turn it off? Yeah, for sure. We're working really hard on the set list. All the onboard device firmware is ready to go. It's just sort of editor support that we're building in. Can we turn it off? I thought
it's not off at the moment.
It's not off. I'm very sorry.
I think it was off in I think it was off in like 58 or 59, but it's back in 61.
Yeah, the reason it was on in the beta is we were just looking to get some feedback from testers on kind of the feel of the menu and the triggering and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, as soon as we'll probably release like a very minor patch next couple of days and turn that off, so you don't have to worry about accidentally triggering it. Thanks for the reminder, Chuck. Very helpful. So anyway, yeah, structural improvements. This is basically to do with the stability of device API and its reliability and robustness communicating with the editor. It is now, again, I hesitate to use the word bulletproof because, nothing is perfect. Nothing at all is perfect, but it's pretty darn close. We haven't had any, reports of issues communicating with the editor or things like that, or missing, like config data for quite a long time in the beta. It's been very extensively tested. It's now more robust and easier to use as well. If you're kind of a bit of a DIY or a developer and you want to get custom integration with your bridge happening, with 2.0 out, I'm working very hard on updating the documentation for device API so you can use that to create custom integration for your bridge. Cool.
Yeah.
The aux switch flexi-port marker. Oh yeah, we changed the order of the little rings for an aux switch indicator, and that is to better match the standard layout of an aux switch in terms of like the tip, the ring, the tip plus ring, or ABC. So we've called it, which also maps correctly to the layout for the arrow. Stay tuned. I probably won't go through all the bug fixes. We put a couple of the major ones in there. There's a gamut that sort of also fall under like improvements and things like that. I would generally just say upgrade your firmware, and pretty much all of your troubles will be gone. And if you're still, if you've got some kind of issue, then let us know. But yeah, it's probably just a couple of the main ones that multiple people were having there. I'll cover off on the known issues, and this is just to let you know that there's a couple of really minor known issues that we know about. They're coming, will be sort of the first fix. Will include those. It's just that they require a little bit more in-depth poking and prodding, and we wanted to make sure that everything was, we weren't accidentally breaking things in preparation for OS 2 public launch. So the main ones are LFO is not turned off with smart messages or switch groups. So if you're controlling messages and switch groups or smart messages that also have assigned LFOs, the LFO state doesn't synchronize with those switch group actions. So probably a fairly edge case for a lot of people, I'd imagine, but just be aware of that if you're using LFOs in switch groups. Clock output's not sent to flexi ports in device link mode. Yeah, so if you have a MIDI clock assigned in tap tempo, hang on. Sorry, my child's just barging on you.
Right. So if you have, I'll follow on from Sam there. If you have a device link set up and you've got MIDI going between the two devices, MIDI streaming. Yep, we're there.
Camera. Hey guys, face tracking. Where are you? There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. Oh, dear.
So if you have the MIDI streaming from one device to the other, currently when you set the MIDI clock outputs, even when the flexi ports are in device link mode, you can't set the clock outputs to those flexi ports, but that will change.
Yeah. There's also with the MIDI streaming functionality. So it'll pass MIDI through and then also send MIDI, and the set flag for whether a device on like a device link connection responds to incoming MIDI messages needs a little bit of work for a particular edge case. So you've got two bridges set up and you press a switch and it might send out the default CC toggle on. If you have your device set to respond to those messages, it can then turn its own switch on, which then sends that MIDI message back and you get this kind of MIDI loop. And I'm just looking into some really nice ways to ignore that functionality while also having that sort of MIDI stream still be really responsive. So it's I don't know if necessarily anyone's using that particular feature in the edge case I've explained, but if you are working on a fix for that. The send primary not working in sequential mode, that's just so you can send always, you can send secondary, you can send primary for the sequential mode actions when you want that message stack to be sent. Again, just working on a nice solution for a particularly kind of tricky edge case. Again, it's fairly minor. Just set it to send always or secondary and you'll be fine. release and hold message stacks triggered on bank jump-in and target banks. Yeah, so if you have a smart message that says go to a bank and it's triggered on a toggle, toggles on, goes to the new bank, and then when you release that switch, if you have a release message assigned to that same switch on the target bank, it will trigger that release message. Again, bit of an edge case, but definitely something we're looking into. Again, we'll have a fix for that available fairly soon. Just wanted to avoid sort of tinkering with making any potential breaking changes to the bank navigation and smart message handling mechanics. Last thing you want to do a couple of days before releasing firmware into live. So stay tuned for some fixes on that stuff. Did you want to say go, Simon?
All righty. No. I was just going to say thank you to Cake. Just did his firmware update to 2.0 with only half a cup of coffee in him. And he said it's very easy. So that's the way it should be.
Big disclaimer. Should have mentioned at the start. If you are updating your firmware from 1.3.1 or earlier and you update to 2.0, you have to do a factory reset. You can do that by holding down foot switch 1 on your device while powering it on. What? Sorry?
Let's do it.
Yeah, you can do that holding foot switch 1 on your device while powering it on. Hold it until the LEDs turn white. It's a fail-safe backup. If you can't access the menu to a factory reset, this will still work. You'll see 6 seconds or so, LEDs turn white. It will factory reset and restore itself. So make sure you back up your config first. Update it as prompt that. Good call out. Yeah, it should. If you're updating from a much older beta as well, you may need to. Generally speaking, we recommend if you're updating to a new major firmware version, back up your config, do a factory reset after updating, then re-import that config. And if you are coming from an earlier firmware version as well, we've got a conversion tool in the editor. So edit.piratemidi.com should now take you to the 2.0 compatible editor. If you are running an older firmware version and you don't want to update yet, you've maybe got some shows coming up, you want to just keep things as they are, totally get it. We have kept the previously compatible editor version up. It will be, maybe Simon might link that in the stream. We'll put it, we'll post it kind of on socials. So you will still have access to that editor. It will be available for, we're not exactly sure, but, for several weeks at the very least, likely maybe 8 to 10 weeks for you to keep using that if you wish, at which point it will be sunsetted. So just something to be aware of. You've got a bit of time to update if you need to. But there is a conversion tool, so you can plug in your, previous version firmware, and it will get your config. It will then massage it into a 2.0 compatible config. You can update. So do that before you update your firmware. Export your config, update your firmware, do your factory reset, plug it in, use the conversion tool to convert your config, then send it back to your device. You may find that some config settings may be missing because they weren't carried over because it's a new feature or something like that. So you may want to go through and check everything, but it will save you 90% of the legwork. Your switch names, your bank names, colors, most message stacks, all that sort of stuff will be preserved in there. So it saves you most of the work. I think that's it. Do you guys have any questions before we jump off? That was nice and a lot shorter than I expected. So very good. If you are having issues with the updater, or anything, just let us know. We'll help you out.
Is there anyone here who doesn't have a copy of Tones and Technology? I'll give away the first 2 people who put in the chat.
I think most people who are MIDI nerds, most people who are MIDI nerds enough to jump into a live stream of a firmware release,
firmware update,
probably are also MIDI nerds.
They know what's up.
Yeah. You've been 2 people.
Cool to have the reference to the wiring types and that can be handy.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just going to stay tuned. I just thought I'd mention this.
Your camera's going everywhere. It's crazy.
Oh, sorry if that's making you seasick. It's kind of like got face tracking going on. Maybe just minimize me, Simon. Take the reins. I'm just going to go get another USB cable so I can show something.
Alrighty. All right. So we have a question from Guacamole Explosion. The update still shows beta 61 as the most recent version. Let me check. I will confirm that now. Just plugging in my bridge. We did release the version to GitHub, so it should have pulled itself in by now. Latest release. Yeah, you're right. I wonder if there is. I'm not sure why that would be. Okay, we will check that. We'll get that sorted out. It does say beta 61. Oh, you found it. I didn't find it. How come I didn't find it?
Oh, it might be because it's the logic for the latest version doesn't prioritize.
Oh, it's under the betas. It's under the betas because of Yep.
We'll get that sorted and get back to you. Sorry about that.
Okay, it is there. Sorry about that. Okay, Tor says, been out of the bridge game for some months. Are we now able to import banks that somebody else has created, like import, export a single bank, not all 100? Okay, there isn't a specific tool for this. However, you can open 2 tabs of the editor at one time. You can import someone's file into one. You can import your own file into the other. And then you can press copy bank on one window, go over to the other window, press paste bank. That's super easy. You no mucking around with JSON text copying or anything. You can do that directly though. One other thing in the editor as well, which was asked for a while back, there's now a little reset button per switch. So when you're editing a switch mode, color, etc. in the menu, on the left menu, there's a little reset button which lets you reset the switch to factory default settings, which does add those toggle on and toggle off single messages, just so you know. Cool.
Very cool. One last thing, Simon, with 2.0 kind of out, I just wanted to show off. I was going to make this a separate video, but maybe it doesn't need to. You've seen this already. But I was thinking about doing a small run of these if anyone was interested. This was actually like a Christmas break project. Just something I wanted to make for myself as a little desk ornament. But it's basically a rainbow. You can't see that well with the light glare. I'm going to try to turn it. We made a MIDI thing with rainbow LEDs. So it is an LED matrix panel that responds to your voice. So it's got a lot of cool things. It's got an onboard microphone and a spectrum analyzer, so you can have from your bass frequencies to your high frequencies. Will show the spectrum response. It's got a couple of switches on the back so that you can also have just kind of like an ambient party glowing. You can play Snake on it from external MIDI controls. You got spectrum analyzer. But I was building this. It's got built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I'll show you sort of the final prototype version in like a really nice schmick black case. I built one for myself because I wanted to. But what I was thinking of doing is just opening it up, making the design files and the firmware publicly accessible as an open source project. And if anyone wants to buy the hardware in like I think like a fully assembled version to make more sense, or we could maybe sell it as a kit. I don't know. But if you would want like a nice little kind of sound responsive rainbow ornament, you can change the color scheme. So you can have like a different kind of rainbow. You can have a nice cool blue, fire, kind of like an oceany, a forest green, rain, some different stuff. If you'd like something like that, let me know. I'll probably just release it as an open source project anyway. And maybe do like a small run of them. They'd be fairly cheap, I think, maybe around like the $99 mark. As a fully assembled kit. It's 12 by 12 LED array matrix. Like I said, built-in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. You can create your own cool things. It's got spectrum analyzer for audio, built-in microphone, like a MIDI response sequencer, like ambient kind of thing, display, and built-in snake. So if you want that, let us know.
Yeah. So the MIDI response sequencer, that's like with the grid, you play notes or whatever into it, and the different LEDs represent like a note, and the intensity sets the brightness of the LED and all that.
Yeah, sweet. That's right. It'll only take a sec. Let me see if I can bring it up. I don't have a keyboard in front of me, but how good is trying to do something live on stream?
That's what live streams are all about. There's no polish here, mate. No polish here.
So I've just bought like an on-screen keyboard editor up, so it's not necessarily going to be as exciting as you might think. But just kind of sliding my fingers across the keyboard, you get all the different kind of notes, and if you go up in the keyboard, we can change the velocity, and it will respond. The color will change based on the velocity of the notes. You can make it much brighter. We can go up. How do I scroll through the keyboard? We can do all sorts of cool stuff. So, really fun little like desktop ornament. I actually quite like just having it on my desk while I'm trying to think, going in the, like the sound responsive or the ambient pattern randomizer can be really fun. Anyway, let us know. That's about all she wrote, I think.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for coming. We really appreciate, especially the people in Europe who've joined us in the middle of the night. That's pretty awesome. We love you guys. Very grateful for everything you've done. We'll probably also release a little set of changes to the web editor. One thing I'll just quickly mention is that when you add a message now, we used to have multiple buttons for device library, add a MIDI message, then we added a keyboard messages button. We've now combined those into one button because it was getting like a lot of buttons. And I know it adds one more click when you're doing some of the other message types, but it allows us to keep that tidier specifically for when we change to a mobile editor that will need to be condensed like that. So there's a little arrow next to the add message button now. You click that and that will get your smart messages, device library, and keyboard messages as separate buttons to click. If you just click add message, it will add just the normal standard MIDI message where you can choose different types and etc.
Yep, for sure. All right, well, I've got some bridges to build and assemble and get sent out, along with some new stuff. So,
alrighty.
Unless you guys have any other questions, enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. And we're actually going to try, and I think we should post like a cut down version of this stream. We kind of just go to like announcing the new features and things like that as a bit of a easy to digest, couple of minute long format type thing. So we can put that out if you want to recap.
Yeah, and we can remove the children entering the room and all that good stuff.
Please do. Crack it.
Beauty.
See you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
See you later.